Hello! Today I'm going to be sharing with you the best books that I read in 2023. This video has been a long time coming. I know it's a little bit late in the year compared to everyone else's, but I just wanted to wait until December was completely over to make this video. So here we go. First I want to start with two honorable mentions that aren't quite my favorites of the year, but like almost. The first of which is Black Swans by Eve Babbitt. This is a collection of short stories that talks about the 80s, the 90s in California. Is it the 80s and 90s? Yeah, I'm right. The back says decades of dreams, drink, and glimpses of a changing world. I really liked these short stories. I really liked Eve Babbitt's voice in particular. I liked her writing style, and I'm excited to read more by her in the future. And the second and last honorable mention is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This book follows the main character Tress, who lives on an island and has always been happy with her life. She, however, has a huge crush on the governor's son, and one day he is sent away by the governor, and she decides she's going to go on an adventure to save him and bring him back. However, this is made a little bit more complicated because in her world, there isn't an ocean. Instead of there being water in the ocean, there's these things called spores that react to water, which make it dangerous to travel, but she does it nonetheless. This book is so sweet. I love that he didn't add any humor in here for the most part because that's what ruined the other two books for me so far. It's just a lovely little story and I really liked it. But now let's move on to the favorite books. These are in no particular order because that would stress me out too much and I'm just here to have fun. So let's start. The first book is You Could Make This Place Beautiful by Maggie Smith. This is Maggie Smith's memoir that talks about her divorce. It goes into the early days of her marriage, when her children were born, to post-divorce and what life is like then. Maggie Smith writes so fucking beautifully. There were so many lines in here that I underlined, that I wanted to commit to memory if possible. I just think this was so well written, so well done, and it was so like introspective, and I love the way that she analyzed her marriage. I just thought it was so beautiful. I can't recommend this book enough. After that, we have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Oh my god, I just like could not speak. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This book follows our main character, Aidan Bishop, whose name I had to check the back of the cover for, who essentially is at this party, and at this party every night Evelyn Hardcastle dies. And every day he's like reborn almost into another person who's attending the party and has their specific skill set, and his goal is to determine who is killing Evelyn. This is such a fun concept. It's so cool that he like wakes up every day in a different body, and I like that not only is he waking up in these different bodies, but like for instance, some of these bodies are just better at different things. Like some of them are smarter, some of them are like faster, some of them are slower, stuff like that. So he's really like limited in some cases, which makes it cool. I just could not stop reading this book. Okay, my camera died, so it's been a couple hours now since I last filmed that part, even though it's only been a second for you. So I do not remember how far I got into explaining this, so I'm just gonna say I would highly recommend it, and we'll move on. My next favorite book is The Fifth Season, and honestly just this whole trilogy. What's it called? What's the trilogy called? Broken Earth trilogy. So Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky as well. I think you can see them. Oh, you can't. That's okay. Everything's fine. This book takes place in a world where every so often, it could be centuries, it could be decades, it could be longer, the world breaks and the world like starts to end. And this has to do with like extreme weather events and stuff like that. And also in this world there's magic, but it's very looked down upon. So you're following three main characters. One of them has magic but has not gone to the magic school, which is the only acceptable way to use your magic, and is just living out there. Oh, I'm doing a bad job already. And she witnesses the murder of her son by her husband because her husband found out that her son has magic. She's been hiding it from everyone that she knows. You're also following a young girl who has magic and just got picked up by a guardian to take her to the magic school, and then you're following a woman who is in the magic school as she's taken on a quest. This book, this whole series is so fucking good. It's incredible. The world building is phenomenal. Just the story is so unique. I just blasted through these books. I enjoyed them so much and I would highly recommend. Next, we have If We Were Villains by ML Rio. This book takes place at a prestigious university, like an acting school, that only does Shakespearean plays, and it follows a group of friends who are in their last year And in the beginning of the book, you find out that the main character is in prison for a crime, but you do not know the crime. So you're kind of following the series of events as the crime happens, and afterwards trying to figure out who did it. It was a lot of fun. I read this for my Dark Academia reading vlog. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I was really pleasantly surprised by this one. It was just like a classic Dark Academia. It was such a good time. I do think like I didn't understand everything because there were so many Shakespeare references and I am not intelligent or well informed about Shakespeare. So I'm sure that a lot of it went past my head, but this book, like, I was sucked into it. I could not stop reading it, and I mean, you can see in the reading vlog my reactions to it. It was just a great read. After that, we have The 100 Years' War on Palestine, A History of Settler Colonialism and Resistance by Rashid Khalidi. This is basically a history of Palestine's and it being colonized. It's basically a history of like Palestine-Israel relations, and it is so thorough, such a comprehensive view of Palestine's history. It's incredible, and I think like I read it during a very important time, obviously, and I would highly recommend this to people who are trying to be educated. It talks about the Nakba, it talks about the PLO, it talks a little bit about Hamas, but it just follows the strategies that Palestine has been using over time to try to achieve statehood while being just constantly shit on by everyone. I think this is a really important read. I think everyone should read it. After that, we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. This book follows two characters, I always forget their names, Connell and Marianne, who are both growing up in the same small town. They're both in high school together, but Connell has friends whereas Marianne doesn't. They start to see each other secretly because Connell doesn't want anyone to know. And it just follows their relationship from the time that they went to school together to college and afterwards. I was not expecting to like this book because I haven't liked Sally Rooney that much, to be honest, but this book really blew me away. I thought it was so good. Again, it was just another book that like I couldn't put down. The writing is phenomenal, the story is great, it's just, I highly recommend it. Next, we have The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. This is the sequel series to A Darker Shade of Magic, so I can't really describe what happens in this book, but I can tell you that in A Darker Shade of Magic, there are 4 different Londons. Red London, which is full of magic. Grey London, which is our current day London with no magic. White London, which is like suffering because Black London's magic is corrupt and they had to like cut it off from the rest of the world. So White London is kind of losing its magic and it's kind of becoming more corrupt. And it follows these people called Ansaris who can travel between these different Londons, which is a really cool premise. I loved Darker Shade of Magic, but it's been years since I picked it up, so I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this one, and I ended up loving it. This has really kicked me off into like a big fantasy mood. So I've been reading a lot of fantasy ever since I picked this one up. It was so fun because it's not like a stereotypical sequel, because not only does it have like the old characters, but it also follows some new characters as well, which I think makes it really fresh. Because not only are you excited to read about the characters that you know and love, but there's also some new people thrown in there to make things more interesting. I really enjoyed this one and can't wait to continue on with the series. After that, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This book takes place in a world where there's this magic system based on silver and language, and it follows our young main character, I don't know why I called him young, our main character Robin Swift, who grows up in China and his mother dies. And after his mother dies, he's visited by this wealthy English professor who takes him in and teaches him like Greek and Latin and gets him into Oxford. And in Oxford, he starts learning languages to put him on track in order to work this silver magic. However, when he's there, he finds out that there's like this vigilante group almost. Not vigilante, that's not the right word to use. There's this like secret group that is stealing silver from Oxford and redistributing it in ways that they think is more just. This book has a lot to do with like imperialism, racism, sexism, all the isms. This book is just phenomenal and I really love the messages in here. Some people have critiqued it saying that they didn't like how obvious the messages were, like they felt like they should be more subdued, but I really liked how in your face it was. It just felt really refreshing to me. Highly, highly recommend. Getting to the last 2 now. Second to last is Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. This book, first of all, just has the most beautiful cover. I also have a signed edition, which is really fun. But this follows our main character, Cassie, who has a job in Silicon Valley. She is incredibly depressed. so fucking depressed. She feels like this black hole is constantly following her and she sees it in her vision, and she's doing a ton of drugs. This is another book that I just flew through. I loved the writing. I thought this book was so unique. If you like literary fiction about women having mental breakdowns, this is the book for you. I loved it. I really did. And the last book on this list is perhaps an obvious one if you've been keeping up with my videos, and that is Bunny by Mona Awad. This book follows the main character Samantha, who is in grad school in a writing program. All the other people in her program are also women, but they're all best friends and they call each other Bunny, and they're all really rich and snobby, and she hates them. She can't stand them at all. But one day they invite her to hang out with them, and from there everything changes. This is such a weird fucking book. Like, probably one of the weirdest books I've ever read, and I loved that about it. I thought this was so unique, so cool. I just loved the whole reading experience because you just get sucked in right off the bat as soon as the first weird thing happens. Like, I remember reading it, and when the one weird thing happened, it wasn't addressed right away, and the book just kind of carried on, and I was like left there feeling it as almost as if I had like imagined it, but I didn't. It was weird actually. So highly, highly recommend. This may be my favorite book of the year. I think I can say that. So there you go. Those are my favorite books that I read in 2023. Let me know what your favorite books were down below, and I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye.